We have big news to go through in today's video. Dana White just went live and announced 2 pay-per-views in October, along with some massive fights to go with them, including Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Finally, Tom Aspinall gets his fight announced. We've been waiting so long. He will be the headliner of UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi on October the 25th, but that's not it. That's not the only thing that the UFC announced. We have a whole other pay-per-view, UFC 320, October the 4th. Magomed Anikalaev versus Alex Pereira 2, the rematch, will be the main event of this card, but that's not it. We've got 2 other massive fights on this card as well at UFC 320. We've also got Merab Dvalishvili back in there already against Corey Sandhagen. Shout out to Merab for at least being active here. Merab versus Sandhagen is the co-main event of that UFC 320 card, and that's not it. Prochazka versus Rountree Jr. We are being spoiled with massive, massive fights. Finally, after waiting all year long, we may just see a stacked pay-per-view card. Now, we've been waiting for it all year. The entire year, we've had cards with one good main event and then random unranked guys on the main card. It might be time, and it might just be time, that we're going to get some stacked pay-per-view cards and get a blast from the past with how good some of them are. I'm going to start with, of course, Tom Aspinall's fight with Ciryl Gane and give my breakdown of that. What took them so long to announce this? We all knew it was going to be this. Everyone knew it was going to be Ciryl Gane next. Look at that fucking smug French face on Ciryl Gane. Someone said it here in the comments. Gane's got the unlimited title shot glitch. So true. So unbelievably true. And that smug little pretentious French grin. You know what I mean? It's just horrible. It's horrible to see him just sort of waltz his way back into another title shot off of a robbery. However, this was always the fight that was going to happen. And I don't think there was any, conversations otherwise. So in my opinion, this should have been announced when they announced Jon Jones's retirement. And they should have done that not at a UFC Fight Night post-fight press conference in a one-sentence moment from Dana White. They should have had a moment where they set up a press conference between Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane and then announced the retirement of Jon Jones and then announced this fight at the same time. It just feels weird to wait for them to do it now rather than when they... We all knew this was the next fight to happen, okay? But I'm looking forward to it and I'm nervous, okay? I'm extremely nervous for this fight. I feel like I haven't made a video like this in the whole year. I can't remember the last time I made a video reacting to big fights being announced. They're so few and far between, or it's just one big fight and nothing else. I feel like I used to make these videos back in the day every few months. We would get a bunch of big fight announcements. And now here I am doing it again. So maybe the UFC is really back. But Aspinall versus Gane, scary matchup. I think Aspinall's going to win by KO in the first round. If Taito Ivasa can ever drop you on your ass in an MMA fight after you've beaten him up for the whole first round, if he can find a way to find your chin in that second round and drop you at any point in your career, I think Aspinall will find it in the first round. And I do think we'll see a first round Tom Aspinall KO. I'm nervous though, man. You know, if Ciryl Gane wins, my life will crumble before my very eyes. You understand this, right? We can't have Ciryl Gane win. There's going to be a conglomerate of MMA fans that are suspiciously pro-Gane here for no reason whatsoever, okay? Now, these may be considered former Jon Jones fans that now have nowhere to go because Jones retired, that will now pretend to be Ciryl Gane fans and pretend to want Ciryl Gane to win for the good of the sport. I just think he's way better. Tom Aspinall's the correct prediction. It is a very risky matchup. Ciryl Gane is very, very technical. Ciryl Gane is harder to hit than any former opponent of Tom Aspinall. I just think his grappling is a weakness, and he'll be thinking about that in a fight with Tom. And while you're thinking about that, you've also got to think about being knocked out with any punch you get hit with. So it's just a lot for Gane to worry about, and we know that Gane typically does shit the bed in big moments. But I'm really looking forward to this. But if Gane wins, I'll terminate the channel. If Ciryl Gane defeats Tom Aspinall and exposes him and fraud checks him and TKOs him and schools him, and then I have to sit through Jon Jones tweeting about it, the channel's done, okay? You guys know this. Tom Aspinall's career, my channel's life force is directly correlated to the trajectory of Tom Aspinall's career. I want you guys, after all the work I've done over the past few years here, okay? Don't think that didn't come at a cost, okay? I now need Tom Aspinall to win in order to live in a happy universe for myself. I don't want to look back in 50 years, if I make it that long, and look back at this time and think, oh, I remember when Tom Aspinall got beaten by Ciryl Gane and Jones had the last laugh. No! Never will I allow this. Tom Aspinall must beat Ciryl Gane. This is a huge fight for that pay-per-view card. I don't actually know if it's the main event. If it's not the main event, then it will be Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena on this card, but it seems a little bit soon to be announcing Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev, so I think that's going to be announced for November, which means the October pay-per-view, we're going to have to get creative with some of the matchups on this card, and I think there can be some really good ones. I'll get to 320 in a second, but I mean, the rest, maybe I'll talk about the rest of the card after I've gone through all of the announcements. Massive fight here, really looking forward to it. I think Tom's going to have improved, and Gane he lost to Volkov. That's something crazy, right? Dana White said, yeah, we'll look after you, buddy, after Volkov got robbed by Gane, and subsequently gave Volkov Jailton Almeida as a way of looking after him. And then Ciryl Gane just gets his title shot with his smug French grin. Sorry. Sitting on his fucking ass waiting for shots his whole fucking career. Anyway, there's storyline here, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm not emotionally biased in any way in this matchup, but we're going to move on. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira 2. The rematch, main event of UFC 320. I'm leaning towards Ankalaev, to be honest with you guys. I haven't heard a Shama in a very long time, okay? Now, I'm not saying that Alex Pereira fell off, but I'm worried. I'm very, very worried about this. I'd love for Pereira to win, because you know what Pereira winning means? And this is exactly what Pereira winning means. If Pereira knocks out Ankalaev in this rematch, and Aspinall knocks out Ciryl Gane, you know we're getting Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira at heavyweight for 3 belts. Now that is going to be absolute cinema. That is going to be the most amazing thing ever. So I'm hoping that that's the way the stars align. That would be the perfect way to move on from the stain of the sport that is Jon Jones. But let's talk about this matchup. I just think Pereira strikes very differently when someone's trying to take him down at all times. And even though Ankalaev didn't get the takedowns, I think it's much less likely that Ankalaev goes into this rematch and still doesn't get any takedowns than Pereira going into this rematch and stuffing all of the takedowns again. He stuffed all of the takedowns before, and I guess he focused so much on doing so that he did leave openings on the feet. Now, this was a very close fight, I understand. But Alex Pereira on the back foot, little different. When he low kicks off of the lead leg on the back foot while he's circling, it doesn't have the same snap as when he's low kicking off the rear leg, and he's the one who's able to push forward like he did against Prochazka. And when he's worried about takedowns, he seems to lose a bit of pop in his shots as well. And Ankalaev, he's going to be active. This is an active Ankalaev-ish. You know what I mean? He's staying in there. Other times, Ankalaev has always had some kind of complication in his career with a no contest or a draw where he left one-legged against Jan Blachowicz, and then he had to wait, and then a no contest happened, and then he had to wait all over again. So there was actually a lot psychologically weighing on the mind of Ankalaev going into their first fight. He'd been held back. He knows if he loses this, he's not going to get fair treatment to try and get back to the top. I feel like Ankalaev had a lot of on his mind, and he still put it on Alex Pereira in a very close fight. Extremely close fight. Adjustments can be made by Pereira. But Ankalaev can chin him as well. So it's going to be a worrying one. It's going to be I don't know who to pick here again. I'm going to have to go with Ankalaev because of how he performed the first time. I think if you can do it once, you can do it again, typically. But massive matchup. And I'm glad these fights are finally getting made. I don't know what happened to Allberg. We're going to get to Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree Jr. again in a second. But I don't know what happened to Carlos Allberg in the light heavyweight division. I thought for sure the matchup was going to be Prochazka versus Allberg. Allberg just beat Jan Blachowicz. You know, I thought maybe he would get a shot, but maybe he's injured. Maybe that's what we're hearing. Or maybe they're going to put him on the perf card against someone lower ranked because he didn't really make any noise in his win against Jan Blachowicz, whereas Khalil Rountree at least got some attention with his win over Jamal Hill. So I'm going to go with Anikalaev here. I'm going to take him to win this one by decision, and I reckon he will score takedowns this time. I think this time he'll score takedowns. Pereira will go in there and think, okay, don't overthink the takedowns. Just do what you do well on the feet. And I think that will leave more openings for Anikalaev to get good shots off. And I think he'll get a couple of them, which will leave Pereira a bit survivalist on the feet as it goes the distance. I'm going to say like 49-46 Anikalaev. But I hope Pereira wins so we can get the Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira matchup that we need right now in the UFC. That is going to be the pinnacle of the sport. Imagine that on the same card as like a Makhachev to Pereira. I don't even want to think about how good it could possibly be because I'm getting overzealous here. We move on.
Want a career that makes a difference? ATA College is here to help you get a diagnostic medical sonography degree that will have you career ready in as little as 18 months. Get the degree that can make a difference in your life. ATA College. Go to ohio.ata.edu for more.
We're challenging the standard of what comes standard with the next generation GMC Terrain Elevation.
Get this low mileage lease on this all-wheel drive Terrain Elevation for around $349 per month.
Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. Again, we knew this fight was coming. I didn't know it was coming this soon, though. So, you know what? Our little battle-known Merab, I know I hate him because, guys, my favorite fighters were Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, and Sean O'Malley to watch. They weren't the only three. I've got other favorite fighters. But they were for a long time in my top 10, top 5 to watch of all time. And Merab destroyed all of them and ruined all of their careers. And I feel a way about that. However, I don't really care that much about Corey Sandhagen. So I'm going to enjoy this one. Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. I am going with Merab over Corey. I just think Sandhagen... It's tough to pick Sandhagen based on finishing potential. I know he does have better knees up the middle. But he's only landed that on Frankie Edgar. You know? So it's one of those things where, you know, am I going to pick Chris Gutierrez's legendary knee up the middle for any time he goes up against a grappler moving forward? No, the guy nearly lost to John Castaneda. So I'm not saying that Sandhagen's that level. And I do think he can give Merab some problems because Sandhagen does have much better takedown defense and scrambles than Sean O'Malley and some others as well. Peter Yan doesn't seem as long enough to sort of like posture out of certain things. So maybe he could do well at range, but I just think Merab is unbeatable right now, man. Merab's got the X factor right now. And if Umar can do what he did to you, I think Merab can do the same because Merab did a bit of that to Umar, more than Umar did to him. So it's just, it's tough, man, because I want to be hyped up about this, but I feel like I know Merab's winning now. So maybe I'll jinx it and Sandhagen will pull this one off, but I'm going to go Merab. I like that this is the co-main event. It's a big fight. When it's something that we all expect, let's just get it out of the way. I don't know what's to come after this, by the way. This is in October the 4th. So this has to be like after this and after Pantoja versus Joshua Van. If that gets announced for November, maybe on that pay-per-view. I mean, after those fights, we've got to do Merab versus Pantoja because there's nothing else for Merab in the division, unless Marcus McGee wins this weekend against Piotr Yan. But even then, I wouldn't want to see him immediately get a title shot. I want to build up a contender. Merab's being too dominant for his own good, and he's going to get into a position where it's like, I guess the next guy versus Merab. So he is killing a bit of hype in his own division, but I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think Sandhagen can pose some problems, but I think it's going to be a decision win for Merab. 48-47, 49-46. Maybe Sandhagen has a moment, but again, even if he wobbles Merab bad, he's got to shut off Merab out cold. Even if he wobbles Merab badly, I just don't see Corey Sandhagen's follow-up shots. If you know about Corey Sandhagen's weak-ass ground and pound. I don't think they're going to finish Merab off if Marlon Moraes couldn't do it with some nasty follow-up shots and knockdowns. Merab's recovery is unhuman. It's inhumane levels of recovery that he has. Everyone else gets tired shooting takedowns. He can shoot 50 against Yan. one every 30 seconds. Fail it and still do it. Some other guy shoots 2 takedowns in a round and it's like, oh, fucking hell, I just wasted all that energy failing 2 takedowns. Not Merab, though. So, Corey Sandhagen, I don't know what you're going to have to do, but, brother, he's got a shot. So, we'll see what happens in this matchup. I don't really know what to say about this one. It's kind of tough to even predict against Merab at this point at all. We've also got Jiří Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree Jr. again. Where's Carlos Ulberg? Ulberg versus Prochazka was the #1 contender fight. Khalil's ranked number 4 again? He's ranked number 4. How do you get to number 4? I wonder who's below him. So this would mean that Pereira's won. So Rountree's above Jan Blachowicz in this division now. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that at all. But fair enough. Khalil Rountree, dude, they like Khalil. They like Khalil. They're pushing Khalil. They're going to give him this. This is a really fun matchup. I'm going to go Jiří. I am going to go with Jiří Prochazka. The low kicks do worry me for Khalil, but I feel like Jiří can adjust, but they do worry me still. Khalil could chew up his legs. However, although Khalil Rountree is powerful, he's not shutting people out. You know, he's not switching people off. And I think you have to have that different level of power to really give Jiří Prochazka something to worry about, because we've seen in his last fight with Jamal Hill and in his fight before his fight with Pereira against Alexander Rakic, or was that? No, that was his last 2, right? Alexander Rakic and Jamal Hill. I can't remember if he fought Pereira again in between that. No, UFC 300 was Prochazka versus Rakic. I don't fucking know anymore. Okay, I'm retarded. But I'm fairly... I want to fight Alex Pereira. When did he say that? Third fight with Alex. Maybe it was. Maybe he did fight Pereira for the rematch after the Rakic win. I think that's how it went. But either way, what I mean is, if you don't have the power of Pereira, then you're not going to get respect from Jiří. And he's going to walk you down with improved head movement and improved footwork and better offense. And I think Jiří can deal with Khalil. I think Khalil might get kneed in the fucking face here, to be honest with you guys. I can see that happening. I know Jamal Hill was looking for it in moments, but his leg was too destroyed to even get into close range to begin with. I think Jiří will find the answer. I think Khalil can be broken. And I know he's already been broken by Alex Pereira. And I know it's Alex Pereira and Yuri's been finished by him as well. But once you take that savage beating up against a cage, if that shit starts happening again to Khalil, I think there's almost going to be like a PTSD folding moment where Yuri's pouring it on and he's feeling the pain from the Pereira fight as well, and his nose is opened up again and shattered, and he's got a cut over his eye again. I just feel like he's got a lot of damage to reopen up on his face, and I always think Khalil Rountree can be bullied around a little bit against the right opponent. With the right opponent, they can bully him around. So I'm going to lean towards Jiří Prochazka here. I think this is a sick fight. Now let's get on to what else I would add on to these cards, because we can make these the best cards ever. I'm going to start with UFC 320, actually. What should we sprinkle on to the rest of this card? Anikalaev versus Pereira 2. I should maybe have had the rankings up at the same time here. But think about the matchups that we've got to get done, right? We've got to get Paddy Pimblett a matchup. We've got to get Justin Gaethje a matchup, even though he's saying that he's not going to take on anyone. You know what? Fuck Justin Gaethje. Get him out of fucking sport, fucking bitch. Going out pathetic. I don't know if you've seen any Justin Gaethje interviews recently. Going out fucking pathetic. A pathetic little bitch is the way he's going out, whining and crying, waiting for a title shot that he's not going to get. Get rid of him. I don't know if anyone's seen his recent interview. I couldn't fucking listen to it. Either way, though. I'd say for this card in Abu Dhabi, the co-main event's got to be Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan. I don't know why we're not doing that fight. I want to see a fight between... And people are saying, I said Paddy Pimblett should fight Arman Tsarukyan. And apparently Arman, like, runs the retards in comment sections. I don't know why he has the NPC fan base, but he does. And they're saying shit like classic Ilya fan doesn't want Arman to get to Ilya, so he wants to match him up with Pimblett. Are you admitting Pimblett beats Arman, you fucking retards? I think Arman beats Pimblett. Put him on the card here with Tom Aspinall. It makes sense. It's themed. And if Arman beats Pimblett, he's going to be a superstar, fresh off a win, and then we can market the shit out of Ilia Topuria versus Arman. And if Arman gets upset by Pimblett in an upset win, which I think it would be, I don't think Pimblett would beat him, Then we can do Pimlet versus Ilya, and that would be a massive, massive matchup. And this is October 25th, in 3 months. Book it now. Arman, Pimlet, go. Gaethje, go fuck yourself. Accept a fight with Dan Hooker in November or December, or get fucking lost. We ain't got time for this pathetic shit. You got a BMF belt, for fuck's sake, and here you are crying that you ain't getting a title shot on a 1-fight win streak. Fuck him. Revoke that BMF belt off of Gaethje as far as I'm concerned. What else can they add? We need an Arnold Allen fight. And I know Yair Rodriguez should not be getting a fucking title shot. So we need an Arnold Allen versus Yair Rodriguez on the main card here. I think that would be a good fight to add to the main card. What else can they do? Ian Gary versus Sean Brady can be added to this October pay-per-view. Maybe that would be in America. I think Ian Gary would want to fight in Las Vegas. So maybe Las Vegas, they could add Ian Gary versus Sean Brady here. There's a bunch of matchups to work with. They've got Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov or Kamaru Usman, or Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Michael Morales. They can go on any of these UFC 320 or UFC 321 cards. And this also tells us, what is there another title fight that can go on this card? Do Zhang Weili versus Verna Jandiroba on this card, or are they going to do her versus Shevchenko? Maybe they should do her versus Shevchenko on this card. Co-main event, Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. Feature fight, Paddy Pimlet versus Arman Tsarukyan. Already you're looking at a stacked card with actually a good women's title fight that you know they're going to put on. You know I don't want to put that on there. You know I want Pimlet versus Arman in the co-main event. But you know they're going to put it somewhere. So I think Zhang Weili, Valentina Shevchenko, co-main event of this. Where does Pantoja and Van come in? I think that's November now. I think that tells us that November is Makhachev versus JDM. I think we're seeing Makhachev versus JDM in November. We're also going to see Joshua Van versus Alejandro Pantoja in November or December. What other title fights we got in the UFC? Jax there. Ilya's not fighting before the end of the year. I don't see that happening unless they give him Gaethje. But I don't know why they would reward Gaethje for this behavior. So I really don't see that happening.